made a decision, even though I was like crying, after that, I was like, my goodness, why? Why did I wonder and postpone this for this many months? Why did I put so much pressure on myself? And it was like, it was so easy.
Each and every one of us is a legend. We have a story to tell, a world to build. And if you're here because you are done just striving to make a dollar because you want to make a difference, then you are in the right place. Welcome to LegendMaker Radio, a LegendMaker Global podcast. What is up, LegendMakers? I am here with Ena Bautista, and she is a coach that I think you need to meet. She is a legend, and I'm going to let her tell you why.
Oh, hello and welcome, everybody. It's my pleasure to be here. And I'm a mindset coach and a mentor to go-getters, high achievers who are looking to create thriving and enriching businesses, but on their own terms, rather than looking to replicate everyone else's lifestyle, focusing on what successful and fulfilling lifestyle means to them and how that looks like, while also staying in integrity with their own values, to their own soul, and maintaining a regulated nervous system.
That's very important. That is so important, is that nervous system, because that really is what pulls people out of making transformation, is it not? So with your specification on what that means to them, do you find that a lot of people are not trying to build something that's in alignment with who they are, rather?
Yes, I would say yes, but not intentionally. I think that is often very subconscious. And I will speak from my experience and from experience of working with other people and noticing kind of how that develops. It's especially for women or people who have been brought up as women. There's this kind of societal expectation that you should fit into certain boxes, and that starts from a very young age, and then we kind of grow up and we develop these coping mechanisms where we had to kind of fit into those boxes. And I'm sure it happens also for men, because there's this kind of expectation that they should be doing certain things, providing for their family, fit and run their lives in a certain way. And then especially as we get into like business owners, I've been in the online industry for a while, and what I have noticed, there's this prevalent opinion or unwritten expectation that your business success should look like it should have a certain path. Mm-hmm. And that when you start your business, you should hit certain milestones within certain time frames. Hit your first 10K goal, 50K, 100, and then multiple 6 figures, multiple 7 figures. And I realized that oftentimes a lot of people just go down that path, running and kind of like looking for that to be their end goal without actually checking in whether this is something that they want. And I've had conversations with my peers for a while, and they said, you know what, I'm afraid to admit that I do not want that I do not want the jet set lifestyle. And a lot of them kind of develop a certain belief that if they do not want to aim for multiple 7 figures, 8-figure businesses, that automatically means they have money mindset issues. Mm-hmm. So they kind of go down the road of exploring that and figuring out what is wrong with their mindset issue if they do not want that. And I think a lot of people, they kind of go down that road in that kind of roller coaster that just keeps going higher without checking in with themselves whether that feels right for them and for their bodies, whether that feels right for their family kind of lifestyle that they're having, and often find themselves working even longer than they were working in their jobs. Kind of escape to the 9 to 5 to work from 9 to 9.
I'm sorry.
And yeah.
That's exactly right. That's literally how it works. Like they're running away from that 9 to 5, and they end up creating like not a job for themselves, but they're creating like 15 jobs for themselves between having to do their own marketing and having to, find clients and the admin stuff and all the hats that we have to wear as business owners, right? So you're leaving, or you think you're leaving, the 9 to 5 to actually create freedom, but you don't know how to create freedom. You don't know what freedom is for you. So that's so important. How can they?
That even happens if for the entrepreneurs, not only that they're doing everything themselves, but also who have teams. When you get a team on board, there's this extra pressure that you need to kind of provide and keep be the steady rock for everyone, because there are people now depending on you, and now you are in a different kind of race or competition with yourself. And I heard one phrase, one lady said, I felt like I needed to create success to sell more success, but I also felt like I needed to sell success to feel more successful. And it was kind of like a catch-22.
That is. So what is the tip off for you that someone is not in alignment with what they're doing?
A lot of the time, for me, it's in the languaging, and that's the biggest tip off. I'm a big fan of listening to the language. Oftentimes it displays in terms of like the circumstances that they found themselves in. For example, for a lot of entrepreneurs, they could be earning a lot, like they're hitting their goals, but what often happens is that they do not have the time to assess what's going on in the business, the structures, the strategy, the team members, the softwares. So even though they're hitting certain figures, oftentimes they do not have the headspace to kind of figure out what do they need from those team members, what they don't need, and they're spending as much, like a lot of it comes in, but also a lot of it comes out. Not being able to be present with their family members, the partner, constantly thinking about the business at the back of their mind, and mostly not actually living, but kind of like achieving the goals, hitting the goals, but not feeling like they're actually living that and enjoying all those, I would say, fruits of labor, everything that they're working so hard for.
Right. So they have success, and they're also exhausted from that success. So it's not that they realize, maybe they don't realize that they're not in alignment, but what they realize is something's not working.
Yes. Like there's still something missing, oh, there must be more to this, I saw one amazing lady, and she was saying, I hit my first 6 figures, and I thought there will be all these balloons and celebrations. I ended up opening champagne and crying in my bathroom on my own that day, because I've hit 6 figures now, and now what
right. Now what exactly?
Yes. And I think I just want to add this. I think a lot of us, when we started our own businesses, we had this vision of what this success is going to bring to us, and how is that going to feel, and what kind of freedom is it going to bring us, and kind of lost along the way, and probably haven't taken the time to reevaluate what from those goals and dreams still feels right. Because when you've set the goals, perhaps you were only earning $5,000 a month, let's just say, and you wanted to get out of the toxic relationship, or you wanted to change where you live, and you wanted to do so much more and run away from those current circumstances. And now that you've had all this income, the situation is much different. So what drove you in the beginning is not probably going to work and feel like it's working any longer, because the drivers underlying drivers between those two phases of your life are going to be definitely different.
So when they find that that it's not driving them, how did they then go back and, it's not just a matter of reevaluation. What did they have to do and
Yes.
in order to create that shift?
Yes, and I think this is the tricky part. It's reevaluating what from those goals is theirs longer, and kind of allowing themselves. I think the biggest thing is allowing themselves to change their mind and to change their goals, because oftentimes what happens is we set these goals and we think that if we change those goals, if we slow down with our business, if we say that we no longer want a 7-figure business, it feels like a failure. And kind of just acknowledging for yourself that it's okay to change your mind. It's okay to slow down maybe for a year or two. Acknowledge that, give accommodations for yourself, see how you can find a way to provide more bandwidth for yourself, see what in your business needs restructuring, opening that breathing space in a way for yourself to see what's working, what's not. Because when you're going from one launch to another without giving yourself an opportunity to review everything in between and tune in whether this is still aligned with you, then it can feel so exhausting. It can feel so exhausting, and oftentimes it feels you do not have the space to absorb or give yourself the bandwidth to do anything different.
So it's almost like they need to give themselves a period of time to just stop. Do nothing, focus on what exactly is being said in the background of your mind, the subconscious of your mind. But how often do you feel like someone should do that? If they're not do you feel like they should only do it if they feel like they're in that frictional period, or is it something that they should be doing?
I think this would be a great exercise to do every 3 to 6 months. If you haven't done it for a while, then you probably should take some space and create kind of like breathing space for yourself and time to think through. I feel like the biggest obstacle to that, what I have observed, is the kind of fear, what's going to happen if I slow down? What's going to happen if especially when you have team members on board and everyone is thinking, oh my goodness, there's all these people that rely on me. I've changed my family's lifestyle. How do I go back?
Right.
And I think the first step would be to think about how to scale back that so that it has the least impact, or how to restructure some of your work so that it has least impact on your income and the lifestyle and your business, whether it needs to be temporarily scaled down or anything, and then allowing yourself the breathing space to kind of really tune into this.
It's kind of like permission, right? They need to give themselves
it's permission, not no one else's but your own. Your own permission, kind of.
When they feel like they have to do that restructuring, is there do you lead them in making decisions on what to restructure and how, or are you strictly helping them with the mindset?
Yes. So I do not strictly promote my work as a strategist. However, I do strategy work, and I'm always able to discuss that. But my primary focus is on the mindset, because at the root of everything is mindset. So I guide them through those emotions. I guide them through that period of fear and discomfort, because it will probably feel uncomfortable to have to think about, oh my goodness, how am I going to do this now?
Right.
You know, because it will feel heavy, and I'm there to support them work through those emotions so that they're not, sabotaging themselves, so they do not go back to the same pattern, which was unhelpful.
So when they, what if they do this work and then they find out that, that they do have to scale back, then they scale back, and then during the scale back, or maybe after the scale back happens, how long is it before they begin to feel okay and safe in that actions or in the actions they took?
Yes. So I think if you're open to it, if you resist it, it's gonna take a lot longer. But I think, you can see progress within a month. You can see progress within 3 months. I think 3 to 6 months is, but even sooner. Like for a longer term, for deeper healing, because there's, I would say there's this surface level work and there's a bit deeper work. Mm-hmm. And what I find often when you start restructuring and when you start making those decisions to scale back, there's often stuff that was left unresolved, mm-hmm. That gets brought up to the surface. And of course you'll notice immediate change. I've seen people have literally feel like there was dead weight that they've just chucked off, and the backpack that they didn't even realize they were carrying, mm-hmm. full of mm-hmm. stones mm-hmm. up to the mountain. And, you take it off and you finally feel, oh, okay, wow. I didn't realize I was carrying this one. There's this immediate kind of effect. However, mm-hmm. there will be there's usually probably some kind of emotions of grief or fear and doubt, and I help them, guide them, and remind them that this is kind of just their subconscious that is kind of trying to keep them safe from unknown, because that will feel unknown.
And the reality is that the unsafe factor is just not imaginary, but there's no dinosaur chasing them down.
No,
they're not going to be physically harmed.
Yes.
They're not in imminent physical danger. So mm-hmm. Then it becomes a matter of just keeping that top of mind and then plowing forward, basically.
Yes,
right?
Yes.
Okay.
And I think what I've observed, when you give yourself permission to make that decision and to do what you have secretly kind of wanted to do for such a long time, as soon as you make that decision, and that's kind of the biggest stumbling point, there's so much pressure here, and then you give yourself permission, and sometimes it will be, accompanied with tears and, what am I doing? Talking from examples, personal experience, once you get over that hurdle, then everything else kind of becomes so much easier. And I'm going to use one example, if I may. Back 3 years ago, I had very long hair. I think long hair as you had. And wow. I think I contemplated cutting my hair off this short for 6 months, I think. And the more I contemplated, there was this internal battle, which I think they will be able to recognize. There's this internal battle between, I really want to do this, but on the other side, there's this pressure, expectation, the voices of the society, but it's not, in my case, but it's not feminine. What would people say if you cut off your hair? You're not going to be considered serious, blah, 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 all of this. And that kind of festered and boiled, and it was cooking, and it was the pressure just kept getting bigger and bigger and bigger until the day that I made the decision that I'm going to cut my hair. And if that meant going bald, it doesn't matter. And I did just that. And when I made the decision, even though I was crying, after that, I was my goodness, why? Why did I wonder and postpone this for this many months? why did I put so much pressure on myself? And it was like, it was so easy. I made a decision. I said, F it, you know?
Yeah.
And I was like, okay, I'm cutting it. Went in there with the scissors, a bit of clippers, and such freedom when I've done that. And this is exactly what happens with the clients. You have that, I would say, pressure pot where everything is kind of like cooking and there's so much pressure, and you could hear that the high pitched note. And when you release that pressure, then it becomes so much easier.
You can feel it in your body when that is like, you know, and it's like you're leading them, but you are leading them into becoming whole new people.
Yes.
They're not even the same person they were when they walked in the door, right? They believed one way, they felt the friction, they didn't know what was going on. Then you have this conversation, then guess what's been going on? And then they have to go through that whole battle that you went through with your, you know, what am I going to do with my hair? And then they have to make that decision. So it's a whole journey, and that is, I guess, why it takes people so long to go through these transformations. Like, there are people who, you know, and from my own experience, like, there are parts of my life where I've just been like battling this same need and desire to do certain things with my health and my fitness, and I still fight with that, and I still whatever, and then when I do the work, it's like, oh. What were you crying about? What was the problem?
Yes.
Right.
Yes.
So it's a permission to become. It's a permission to dig. It's a permission to be wrong. It's permission to feel all the things too. Yes. You know, like feeling stuff is heavy work. It's hard work, and nobody wants more hard work. Nobody wants to feel more pressure.
Yes. And as much as it might seem a lot of work and discomfort, there is so much more, you know. It's kind of like electricity of life that goes through you. There's no going back, you know. Once you go to that stage where you own yourself in your fullness, when you become so unapologetic that you absolutely have no care what others think of you, when you're grounded and anchored in your knowing, I know that this is the best thing for me. I know what I want with my life. And when you unpeel all those layers of everyone's expectations, of everyone's shoulds and musts, that, you know, we've kind of accepted as ours and put expectations on ourselves and others, you know, taking someone else's truths for our own. Once you unpeel those layers, once you unlearn all of that, there's so much beauty and freedom and aliveness and wholeness. It feels kind of like, oh, I've come home to myself. You know, I'm finally who I've always wanted to be. And who I never dared to express myself, and never allowed myself to be and exist in such a way.
So do you have so give everybody like your top tip on kicking off this work and giving themselves permission. What's your top tip in giving themselves permission to hear their truth?
Yes. So I would say just being playfulness. I've created a kind of like a how do you call it? A guide, a roadmap where there are a few prompts that you can go through and kind of like just sit with yourself and be transparent, play with it, throw out all the logic. Throw out all the logic and shoulds and woulds that you might have in your mind, and just kind of play with it. Ask yourself, what is it that I really, really want? When I take away all of everyone's expectations, when I take away all the logic, because logic might play a big role in this. When I take all of that, when I strip it off, what is it that I actually want, and how do I want to feel in my life? Not necessarily what do I want to have and what do I want to achieve, but more how do I want to feel every single day with what I'm doing, like with my bigger purpose, when, you know, as a legend maker, as a, you know, change maker, as a person who wants to make a difference in the world. How do I want to feel every single day? Because then once you have an idea, how do you want to feel going through that, it makes it much easier to make that decision. But I would say simply be open and play with yourself. You know, there's you, especially like, you already feel it. You already feel that there is something in there, right? There's more to it. Yeah. There's more to it. So allow yourself, give yourself permission, right?
Yeah. Very cool. And
I think it starts with a permission and awareness. And once you become aware of that, once you kind of sit with yourself, then ask for support. That's the thing. I know that there are a lot of us who are in the coaching community who would say, oh, I can do it myself. And probably could, but oftentimes holding the space for yourself. And I think just give yourself permission to be held as you go through this. Yes. Yeah. That's one big thing. Yeah. Yeah. Because what I've noticed with high achievers and go-getters, and, you know, I'm used to doing everything on my own and achieving and, you know, ticking all the boxes and hitting my goals. Giving yourself permission for someone to hold you as you go through this journey. Yeah. Because oftentimes we hold all the corners of the house. We hold it for the business, for our parents, for our kids, for our partners, everything.
For our clients.
And yes, not to mention for the clients. And then we are in this do and action and proactive type of energy all the time. And I think first, give yourself permission to tune into what is yours. And secondly, give yourself permission to be supported as you go through that transition and process that, to be guided so that you have the space where you can, you know, break down your walls, where you can be in the softness, in the leaning back and allowing yourself to be guided. Of course, there will be work on your part, but just allowing yourself to be in that softness and break down your walls and cry if you need to, if that's what needs to come out. Allowing yourself to be supported in that journey. Yeah, as you hold the space for others, allow others to hold the space for you.
Space for you. That's true. Because if you are the one who is constantly holding everybody up and holding the space for everybody else, and you, like, it's almost like that's I don't know how to say it. It seems like maybe that could be perceived as a weakness if you have to let someone else hold the space for you. Yeah. So, which that also, I guess, is a trauma response and comes from
yes,
all
and
of that.
Those are learned subconscious behaviors.
Right.
And these are coping mechanisms that we have developed, especially if we are not really good at trusting others. You know, like we've been disappointed in the past. It can be really difficult sometimes to put trust in someone else and say, okay, here I allow, I'm surrendering myself. However, not only by opening yourself up to be supported that you change things, but also you break the pattern. When you break the pattern, things change. If you've done things all the time the same way, breaking the pattern will change things, because you will start creating different experiences and inviting different things into your life.
I love it. And I wanted to mention real quick, because when I read your responses in the booking, you said you're a skill collector. I had to read it twice because I read skull collector. I was like, oh yeah. And I collect skulls. God, that's awesome. But then I skill collector. I was like, well, it's still very stinking cool. So you're a skill collector. What are some of the skills that you've collected?
Yes, so skill collector. Oh, I like learning. So anything that can be done with my hands. So for example, knitting, crocheting. I started gardening in pandemic. Sewing, lots of different things.
Very cool.
I worked with resin. I learned how to cut hair for my son and for my husband. Oh goodness!
And now for yourself.
I love it. I love it.
And cut hair for yourself?
I did, yes. So in the pandemic, I did. I did. So I did most of the stuff I did on the sides and everything, and then I've just asked for help at the back because the hair salons were closed and everything.
Yeah.
And even when I was a virtual assistant, I loved. That was such a fun thing to do. I loved learning how to use different platforms. So I ended up learning like so many technical platforms, so many email marketing, CRMs, website builders, anything.
That's awesome. That's awesome. People who are open to learning and love learning and are skill collectors such as yourself stay younger much longer than those who do not.
So, and I wasn't always like this. So before I moved to the UK, I wasn't very open to that. And I actually thought like, oh, I'm done with my school, my learning. Now I just want to do my job and retire, That's how it was before. And then I developed the love for learning, and it was kind of just insatiable for me.
I love it. I love it. As a teacher, I love that.
So, yes, I consider myself a teacher.
Yes, the student is a perpetual teacher as well. The perpetual student is also a perpetual teacher. So that is very cool. And I wanted to bring your LegendMaker spotlight to the conversation before we close this out. First, before we do that, though, I want you to tell people where they can find you, and then tell me a little bit about your spotlight and the do good that you want to bring to the table.
So you can find me on my Instagram, The Divine Awakener, and of course on my website, enabautista.co.uk, and all the information will be there, how you can get in touch with me through the emails and DMs. You can always jump in my Instagram DMs. I'm also on TikTok and YouTube. However, IG is kind of the sweet spot. And in terms of my do good and organization, what I wanted to bring forward is highlight I would say a project or a thing that is really, really close to my heart is beekeeping and saving the bees. There are so many, I would recommend to get in touch and get connected to your local or worldwide organizations and donate if you can. Inform yourself of how you can support the bees at home, in your own garden, but also on a global scale. If you don't have a garden, you can always donate, because there are so many beautiful organizations that do those things, and not to mention advocate with your local politicians so that they can put kind of legislative measures in place. Since I've become a keen gardener, I have developed appreciation for the bees and noticed the crucial role and recognized the crucial role they play in our life, our food chain. They pollinate 80% of all the 100 foods, most common foods that people eat. So,
is that not mind-blowing? Like,
yes.
Don't take care of the bees and then watch what's going to happen to the rest of us.
Yes.
They're this big, okay, this big, and look at the impact they have. So don't ever think you're too small to do something.
Yes, yes. And I personally have a very, very small garden. We live in an urban space. I've transformed this garden and I've been gardening now. This is a fourth year. And every year I try to inform myself more and more how to create the spaces so they have, somewhere to pollinate and of course to hide throughout the winter and everything. And they're absolutely amazing little creatures. And they're on decline, unfortunately. Yeah, so for me, that's a really cause that is really important to my heart. So anything regarding nature is always, something that I would advocate for.
I love it. I love it. I am also, I have two black thumbs, so I don't grow anything, but I do love to be out in nature and love to try and take care of what I can take care of. Yes. So I do. I appreciate the bees being brought forward today. And I want to tell you, if you don't know Spicy Mustache, yes, Spicy Mustache, get to know him.
I know. On TikTok.
He's in UK. He's in the UK.
Yes.
And he has a massive, it's not even a garden. Like it's literally his whole everything.
Yeah, I know.
Grows vegetables.
I follow him.
Do you really?
So much. Yes. So I was a horrible garden. I never grown anything until pandemic. None of my plants ever indoor, outdoor, nothing ever survived. And because I was staying at home with my son who was 2.5 at the time, we didn't have anywhere to go. It was lockdown. So I tried to create something for two of us in the garden, and that's where it started.
I love it.
Yeah. And this was a belief that I challenged myself on. I always said that I'm not a gardener, and it turned out to be something different. So yeah.
I love it. I love it. Thank you so much for being here. And it was a wonderful, wonderful conversation. I appreciate all your wisdom. And everybody, just wait for this episode to be out. I can't wait to let everybody in on the goodies. Thank you so much. And that brings us to the end of another LegendMaker radio episode. Thank you so much for joining me today. I hope it was valuable. I trust that you are feeling lit and on fire for your purpose and that you are ready to continue on your path. And if you haven't already, please be sure to subscribe to LegendMaker Radio so you never miss an episode filled with wisdom to help you change your world and build your legend. Thanks for tuning in today. I'm your host, Tanya Daka, signing off with a reminder that together we can rebuild the world.